This striking photo shows a very large dark ash cloud rising above a stand of trees at Mount St. Helens, captured by Robert Landsberg moments before the volcano's May 18, 1980 eruption that leveled 100 square miles of forest, killed 57 people, and led Landsberg to sacrifice himself by laying over his camera to save his film. On December 26th, a massive tsunami struck the Thai beach where Vancouver's John and Jackie Mill were vacationing, sweeping them away just moments after they'd snapped their final photo. A month later, missionary Christian P. found their battered camera and, upon developing its memory card, returned the haunting last images of the wave closing in, offering the grieving family a bittersweet glimpse of their loved one's final moments. On November 29, 1900, hundreds of ticketless fans scaled the roof of the brand new Pacific Glassworks factory across from the big game to watch California face Stanford. 20 minutes in, the overloaded roof collapsed, hurling dozens into the 4-story drop and searing molten glass furnace below. 23 people were killed instantly. Facing a federal probe over a no-bid $4.6 million computer contract and accused of taking a $300,000 kickback, Pennsylvania Treasurer Bud Dwyer vehemently protested his innocence as he awaited trial. On January 22, 1987, he stunned the nation by fatally shooting himself during a live TV press conference, his final act of defiance against what he called a broken justice system. It was later found out he was innocent, just as he claimed. On December 23, 2012, Brooklyn rapper Capital Steez, co-founder of Pro Era and rising star behind the viral track Survival Tactics, tweeted, "The end," moments before tragically jumping to his death from his label's headquarters. His public embrace of esoteric beliefs and cryptic social media posts have led many to wonder if undiagnosed mental illness lay behind his final act. Pat Tillman famously walked away from a $3.6 million NFL contract after 9/11 to enlist as an Army Ranger, only to be killed by friendly fire on April 22, 2004 in Afghanistan, a death the military initially spun as heroic enemy action before admitting its cover-up. His final photo, snapped just moments before he was fatally struck, has since come to symbolize both his selfless sacrifice and the painful truth behind the deception. Mita Duran, an Indonesian copywriter, tragically passed away in December 2013 after reportedly working for 3 straight days and consuming excessive amounts of energy drinks to stay awake. Her final tweet, 30 hours of working and still going strong, has since become a haunting reminder of the dangers of extreme overwork. Her death sparked outrage and a deeper conversation around toxic work culture and the hidden toll it can take on health. Dalen Pua's disappearance remains one of the most unsettling unsolved mysteries tied to the infamous Stairway to Heaven trail in Hawaii. On February 27, 2015, the 18-year-old set off alone for the hike, excited and seemingly in good spirits. He shared updates and photos throughout the day, but then communication suddenly stopped. In the days that followed, search and rescue efforts turned up no sign of him. One of the last photos Dalen sent to his family showed what appeared to be a figure hidden in the brush behind him, sparking theories of foul play. Some believe he may have fallen victim to an accident, while others remain convinced something more sinister occurred. Just moments before his fatal 1994 crash, this photo of F1 legend Ayrton Senna shows him smiling, not knowing he is heading towards a tragedy. He died when his car crashed and a wheel from his own car struck his helmet. His death led to sweeping safety reforms in the sport. This photo shows Andrew McCauley during his daring solo kayak attempt across the Tasman Sea. Just a day from success, he vanished, his body never found. These joyful photos of 15-year-old Garrett Miller were taken just minutes before a loose soccer goalpost fell and killed him in a tragic preventable accident. In 1989, a United Airlines DC-10 suffered a catastrophic engine failure mid-flight due to a hidden crack in a fan disc, which destroyed all hydraulic controls. This was the last photo of the plane taken minutes before the disaster. Despite having no normal steering, the crew heroically crash-landed the plane in Sioux City, saving 184 of the 296 people on board. Rock and roll pioneer Buddy Holly died in a plane crash on February 3, 1959, after chartering a flight to escape brutal tour conditions during a snowstorm. The tragedy, which also claimed the lives of Ritchie Valens and the Big Bopper, became known as the day the music died. This photo, taken just moments after departure, captures the Titanic for the last time, days before its infamous sinking after hitting an iceberg on April 14, 1912. Despite warnings, the ship was traveling at full speed and carried too few lifeboats, leading to the deaths of over 1,500 passengers in one of history's deadliest maritime disasters. On August 12, 2000, the Russian submarine Kursk sank after a massive explosion during a naval exercise in the Barents Sea caused by a torpedo malfunction. Despite efforts to rescue the 118 crew members, including delays in international help, the entire crew tragically perished after 2 explosions destroyed the vessel. On September 21, 2014, Darsh Patel and his friends were hiking in the Apshaw Preserve when they encountered a black bear. Despite the bear showing no immediate threat, Patel's decision to take photos of it led to the tragic event when the bear, likely startled or threatened, attacked him, marking the first fatal bear incident in New Jersey. In July 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, a Boeing 777, was tragically shot down by a Russian-made surface-to-air missile during its flight from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. Among the passengers was a family whose final moments were captured in a photograph taken by Father Dave Holly, showing his wife Kim and their 4-year-old daughter Megan shortly before boarding the doomed flight, a memory that has since become a cherished memento for their grieving relatives. The Appalachian Trail, stretching over 2,200 miles from Georgia to Maine, has attracted countless hikers since its inception in 1936, with 66-year-old Jerry Largay among those eager to take on the challenge in 2013. After covering over 1,000 miles with her husband and friend, Jerry continued solo after her friend left due to a family emergency, but she mysteriously disappeared near Route 27 crossing. Despite an extensive search, it wasn't until 2 years later that her body was found in a campsite previously searched, along with haunting text messages indicating her struggle to navigate the wilderness. This was the last photo of her. Utah, renowned for its stunning mountains and slot canyons, attracts millions of visitors annually, but its beauty masks a deadly danger: flash floods. On November 18, 2015, a group of 7 hikers, including Mark McKenzie, Linda Arthur, and Steve Arthur, set off to explore Zion National Park's Keyhole Canyon, only to be tragically swept away by a flash flood after a heavy rainstorm, with their deaths adding to the 12 other victims, including 9 children, claimed by the storm in a devastating event. On August 12, 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123, just 12 minutes into its flight from Tokyo, suffered rapid decompression that severed all 4 hydraulic lines, detached the vertical stabilizer, and damaged other critical components. Despite the pilot's valiant attempts to control the plane, it crashed in a forest in Gunma Prefecture, killing 520 of the 524 passengers and crew, with only 4 survivors. A haunting image from the wreckage showed passengers trying to put on oxygen masks as the plane rapidly decompressed, a tragedy compounded by delayed rescue efforts. On December 26, 2004, a chilling photo captured a towering wave engulfing palm trees, part of the catastrophic 9.1 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Sumatra. The quake triggered a colossal tsunami that devastated Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, and even reached South Africa. Over 230,000 lives were lost. The haunting image serves as a reminder of the unimaginable peril faced by those caught in the moment, many of whom likely did not survive. Vicki Weaver's last photo was taken just before she was tragically shot and killed by an FBI sniper during a 1992 standoff at Ruby Ridge, Idaho. The standoff began after Randy Weaver missed 2 court hearings for charges related to illegal weapons, escalating tensions with federal authorities. The sniper's shot, intended for her husband Randy's friend, mistakenly hit Vicky while she was at the cabin door, leading to her death and a controversial legal case against the government. In 1976, the first recorded Ebola outbreak occurred in Yambuku, Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where a school headmaster named Mabalo Lokala became the initial case. The virus spread rapidly through the Yambuku Mission Hospital due to unsterilized needles used for vitamin injections, resulting in 318 cases and 280 deaths. Among the victims was nurse Mainga Nseka. This photograph depicts two nurses standing beside Mainga after she contracted Ebola while treating a nun from Yambuku. Mainga was preparing to study advanced nursing in Europe on a scholarship before her untimely death. On September 25, 1978, Pacific Southwest Airlines Flight 182 collided midair with a Cessna 172 over San Diego, resulting in the deaths of all 135 aboard the Boeing 727 and 7 individuals on the ground. The Cessna's two pilots also perished, marking it as California's deadliest aviation disaster. Mitsuharu Misawa, a legendary Japanese professional wrestler, tragically passed away on June 13, 2009, during a match in Hiroshima. He suffered an atlantoaxial dislocation, a severe cervical injury, after taking a back suplex from Akitoshi Saito. Misawa was 46 years old at the time of his death. This image shows Sophie Léonet, a 21-year-old French au pair who moved to London in 2016. She was subjected to severe abuse by her employers, Sabrina Kuiter and Wissam Medouni, who falsely believed she was involved with Kuiter's ex-partner, Mark Walton of Boyzone. After weeks of torture and coercion, Sophie was murdered in their bathtub on September 20, 2017. Her body was then burned in their garden. Kuiter and Medouni were convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 30 years. This image shows the trapdoor to the oubliette at Warwick Castle, a medieval dungeon designed for extreme confinement and suffering. Prisoners were lowered into a narrow, jagged stone chamber with no room to stand or sit, left to die slowly in darkness and isolation. This image captures Adolf Hitler on April 28, 1945, standing outside the Führerbunker with his adjutant Julius Schaub, surveying the bombed ruins of the Reichschancellery. It is believed to be the last known photograph of Hitler before his suicide 2 days later. A seemingly innocent photo of Myra Hindley holding her dog on Saddleworth Moor later revealed the burial site of 12-year-old John Kilbride, one of the victims of the Moors murders committed by Hindley and Ian Brady in the 1960s. Despite extensive searches, the body of another victim, Keith Bennett, has never been found. A haunting photo taken in August 2011 shows a frail Steve Jobs, just 2 months before his death from complications of pancreatic cancer. Jobs initially delayed conventional treatment in favor of alternative therapies, a decision he later regretted as his condition worsened. In 1998, Josef Fritzl was photographed enjoying a serene vacation in Thailand, appearing as a typical tourist. Unbeknownst to the world, beneath his home in Austria, he had imprisoned his daughter Elizabeth for 24 years, during which he fathered 7 children with her. This chilling image underscores the horrifying reality that monstrous acts can hide behind the most ordinary facades. The Pulitzer-winning photo, Burst of Joy, captures Lieutenant Colonel Robert Sturm's emotional reunion with his family after over 5 years as a POW in Vietnam. However, just days before his return, Sturm received a letter from his wife ending their marriage, making the joyful image a poignant reminder of personal heartbreak beneath public celebration. In 1975, Suzanne Marie Savakis, then a child, was abducted by her stepfather, Franklin Delano Floyd, while her mother served a brief jail sentence. Raised under the alias Sharon Marshall, Suzanne endured years of abuse at the hands of Franklin Delano Floyd, who even married her at one point. Her true identity remained hidden until 2014, when investigative efforts revealed her name and the tragic circumstances of her life. Despite her plans to escape, she was found severely injured on the side of a highway in 1990 and died under suspicious circumstances. Floyd later confessed to murdering her son, Michael, in 1994, before his own arrest and conviction for multiple murders. In January 1995, MacArthur Wheeler and Clifton Earl Johnson robbed two banks in Pittsburgh, believing that applying lemon juice to their faces would render them invisible to security cameras. Wheeler even tested this by taking a Polaroid photo of his lemon juice-covered face, and, seeing no image, assumed it worked. However, surveillance footage clearly captured their faces, leading to their arrest. In 2019, two tourists were photographed inside the Claw of Death, a large piece of machinery used during the 1986 Chernobyl disaster cleanup. Radiation expert Rob Maxwell measured the claw's radiation at 39.80 microsieverts per hour, over 200 times higher than normal environmental levels. Prolonged exposure could lead to serious health risks, including cancer and radiation sickness. In February 2013, Basid McLean brutally murdered his mother, Tanya Bird, in their Bronx apartment. After stabbing her in the neck, he used a power saw to dismember her body, which he then disposed of in garbage bags across the neighborhood. A photo of McLean holding his mother's severed head was found on his phone, leading to his conviction for second-degree murder and unlawful dissection. He was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. In July 2022, 27-year-old Filippo Bari from Malo, Italy, shared a cheerful selfie atop the Marmolada Glacier, the highest peak in the Dolomites. Tragically, just 20 minutes later, a massive sérac collapse triggered an avalanche of ice, snow, and rock, sweeping him and 10 others to their deaths. Dennis Rader, known as the BTK Killer, led a double life as a devoted father, husband, and church leader while secretly committing heinous crimes. His wife, Paula Dietz, and their children, Carrie and Brian, were unaware of his dark secret until his arrest in 2005. The revelation shattered their lives, as they discovered the man they trusted was responsible for the brutal murders of at least 10 people between 1974 and 1991. In July 2013, U.S. Army combat photographer Hilda Clayton was documenting a live-fire mortar training exercise with Afghan National Army soldiers in Laghman Province, Afghanistan. Tragically, a mortar tube malfunctioned and exploded, killing Clayton and 4 Afghan soldiers. Remarkably, Clayton's camera captured the moment of the blast, making it one of the most poignant and haunting images in military photojournalism. The U.S. Army released the photograph in 2017, honoring her dedication and sacrifice. On July 19, 1991, 12-year-old Jared Negrete disappeared during his first overnight Boy Scout trip in the San Bernardino National Forest. The troop hiked toward Mount San Gorgonio's summit, but Jared fell behind and was told to wait while the others continued. When they returned, he was gone. A camera found during the search contained 12 photos, including a final close-up of Jared's eyes and nose, suggesting he was trying to navigate in the dark. Despite a 19-day search, no trace of Jared was found, leaving his disappearance an enduring mystery. This photograph of Douglas Hegdahl, taken after his release, shows a man who looks frail and wore in a stark contrast to the sailor who once served aboard the USS Canberra. Douglas Hegdahl, a U.S. Navy sailor, was accidentally thrown off his ship and was captured during the Vietnam War, where he pretended to be unintelligent to gain the trust of his captors. Using this ruse, he secretly gathered crucial intelligence, which later helped secure the release of many POWs and influenced changes in how American prisoners were treated. In April 2008, Brazilian priest Adaler Antonio de Carli attempted to break the world record for a balloon flight to raise awareness for a trucker rest stop. Tragically, his flight went off course, and due to a lack of GPS knowledge, he drifted out to sea and was never found, despite extensive search efforts. This photo shows him moments after takeoff. This is last photo of Natalie Ann Holloway, who disappeared in Aruba on May 30, 2005, after being last seen with Joran van der Sloot and 2 others. Despite Joran's confessions and claims about her death, her body was never found, and the case remains unsolved, with Joran later convicted of another murder in Peru. This is a normal-looking photo of a woman named Irma Gress, known as the Beast of Belsen. She was a sadistic SS overseer during the Holocaust, infamous for her cruelty in camps like Ravensbrück, Auschwitz, and Bergen-Belsen. Despite her youthful, angelic appearance, she famously tortured and killed prisoners. leading to her eventual arrest and execution by the British. In January 1985, 19-year-old Lisa Stasi and her 4-month-old daughter, Tiffany, vanished from a Kansas City women's shelter. Lisa had recently separated from her husband and was seeking a fresh start. She met John Edward Robinson, who offered her a job and housing, but instead he murdered her and forged adoption papers to place Tiffany with his brother, Donald Robinson, and his wife, Frida. They renamed her Heather and were unaware of her tragic origins. It wasn't until 2000, when Heather was 15, that she discovered her true identity and the horrifying truth about her adoption. Robinson, a convicted serial killer, had orchestrated the entire deception. The baby he's holding is Heather. In May 2023, 23-year-old Jung Yoo-jung from Busan, South Korea, obsessed with true crime stories, posed as a schoolgirl seeking English tutoring. She arranged a meeting with a 26-year-old tutor, whom she brutally murdered by stabbing over 110 times. After dismembering the body, Jung packed the remains into a suitcase and attempted to dispose of it in a remote area. A suspicious taxi driver alerted the police, leading to her arrest. Jung confessed to the crime, stating it was committed out of curiosity. She was sentenced to life in prison in November 2023, with the Supreme Court upholding the conviction in May 2024. On Christmas Day 1929 in Germantown, North Carolina, Charlie Lawson murdered his wife, Fanny, and 6 of their 7 children before taking his own life. The family had posed for a rare professional photograph just days earlier, which would become the last image of them together. The motive behind the killings remains unclear, with theories ranging from financial stress to rumors of incestuous abuse involving his daughter Marie. The tragedy shocked the nation and has since been the subject of numerous investigations and folklore. On March 4, 1998, 11-year-old Rui Pedro disappeared in Lousada, Portugal, after leaving home to ride his bicycle. He had asked his mother to spend the day with 22-year-old Afonso Diaz, a family friend, but she declined. Despite this, Rui was later seen with Afonso and a prostitute named Alcina Das, where he appeared frightened and upset. After leaving her place, Rui was never seen again. A month later, a photo taken at Disneyland Paris surfaced, showing a boy resembling Rui sitting beside an unidentified man. Despite investigations, the boy's identity couldn't be confirmed. In 2012, Afonso was acquitted of involvement in Rui's disappearance due to insufficient evidence. However, in 2014, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for corruption of a minor. Rui's whereabouts remain unknown, and he was declared legally dead in 2019. This seemingly ordinary black and white family photograph from the 1940s shows Timothy Evans, his wife Beryl, and his sister Mary Westlake, who's holding her brother's baby named Geraldine. In 1949, Timothy Evans, a Welsh lorry driver, was wrongfully convicted and executed for the murder of his wife, Beryl, and their infant daughter, Geraldine, in Notting Hill, London. Evans initially confessed to the crime but later retracted, claiming his neighbor, John Christie, was responsible. Christie, a former police officer, was later revealed to be a serial killer who had committed multiple murders in the same house. Evans was executed in 1950. But in 1966, after Christie's crimes were uncovered, Evans was posthumously pardoned. Thank God, or else he would have been executed again. 6-year-old Adam Walsh was abducted from a Florida mall and brutally murdered by serial killer Otis Toole, whose delayed and inconsistent confessions, along with mishandled evidence, haunted the case for decades until it was finally closed in 2008. In 1983, a photograph of the rear floorboard in Otis Toole's Cadillac revealed what appeared to be a blood-stained face imprint. It was from Adam Walsh's severed head, and it played a crucial role in his capture. Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, terrorized California for decades, breaking into homes, assaulting and murdering victims, often after disabling security systems and hiding until night. Chillingly, he was present at a 1976 community meeting where people unknowingly mocked him. He killed a man and his wife shortly after because they started the mocking. Robert Ben Rhodes, the truck stop killer, was a long-haul trucker who turned his rig into a torture chamber, murdering an estimated 50 women across the U.S. during his routes. His crimes only came to light in 1990 when a state trooper found a terrified, chained woman inside his truck. This is the last photo of one of his victims, named Regina K. Walters. He murdered her minutes after taking this photo. Tyler Hadley, 15, murdered his parents with a hammer, hid their bodies in the house, and then threw a party, posing for a photo with a friend just hours after the killings. Anneliese Michel, a German teen believed to be possessed, endured 67 exorcisms over 10 months before dying of starvation in 1976. This is one of her last photos. Blanche Monnier was imprisoned in a dark, filthy room by her own mother for 25 years, simply for falling in love with a man her family disapproved of. She was eventually rescued. Her mother died of a heart attack when the story got out. Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander's relationship began like a fairy tale, but ended in a true crime tragedy. Despite ending the relationship, Travis couldn't escape her. Friends of Travis noticed Jodi's growing obsession, possessive behavior, stalking, and even sneaking into his house through the dog door. 2 months after Jodi moved back to California, Travis was found brutally murdered in his Arizona home. A recovered camera chillingly documented the final moments of his life, with one photo believed to have been taken by Jodi herself, just before she brutally killed him with a knife. In 1959, Soviet scientist Vladimir Demikov shocked the world by creating a two-headed dog through head transplantation, a gruesome experiment that lasted only 4 days but sparked decades of ethical debate. Just 2 weeks before the Columbine massacre, this eerie photo captured Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold posing with imaginary guns, a haunting preview of the tragedy that would leave 15 dead and 24 injured. Jeannie, known as the feral child, was isolated and brutally abused by her father for the first 13 years of her life, during which she never learned to speak or socialize. After being discovered in 1970, she became the subject of intense scientific study, but some researchers were accused of exploiting her. Despite her profound developmental delays, Jeannie was able to communicate non-verbally and showed a strong desire to learn. However, after the study ended, she was moved through various foster homes and faced further abuse, losing much of the progress she had made. Her current whereabouts remain unknown, and her story is a tragic example of exploitation and neglect. The elephant's foot refers to a mass of corium and other materials formed during the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Created from a meltdown in Reactor 4, this grotesque, elephant-like mass was a lethal combination of nuclear fuel, graphite, and concrete. At the time of its discovery, it emitted deadly levels of radiation, capable of killing with just a brief exposure. In the 1920s, hundreds of young women known as the Radium Girls worked in American watch factories, unknowingly exposed to deadly levels of radium in luminous paint. Their bodies glowed in the dark, and they were told the substance was harmless. Over time, the radium caused horrific health issues like bone collapse, jaw disintegration, and cancer, leading to painful deaths. Despite the company's attempts to cover up the cause, the women's fight for justice resulted in safety reforms for handling radioactive materials, though many of the Radium Girls did not live to see their day in court. In October 1995, Robert Overacre attempted a daring stunt to raise awareness for homelessness by jumping over Niagara Falls on a jet ski with a parachute. Tragically, the parachute malfunctioned, and instead of a thrilling escape, the 39-year-old plunged 180 feet to his death. The Stanford Prison Experiment, 1971, was a study by psychologist Philip Zimbardo to explore the effects of power. 24 students were randomly assigned to be guards or prisoners in a mock prison. The experiment, meant to last 2 weeks, was cut short after 6 days due to extreme abuse by the guards and severe emotional distress in the prisoners. The guards became sadistic, while prisoners rebelled and suffered psychologically. The study showed how quickly people could adapt to abusive roles when given power, challenging ideas about human nature and the potential for cruelty under certain conditions. The mutant piglet. Born with a rare condition that caused a bifurcation of its body, the piglet highlights the severe genetic damage caused by the 1986 nuclear meltdown. Animals like deer, wolves, and even lynx thrive in the area, while the red forest, named for the radiation-killed trees, remains as a reminder of the long-lasting impact of the disaster. Anatoly Moskvin, a Russian historian with a disturbing obsession, became infamous for exhuming the bodies of girls and turning them into living dolls. Known for his expertise in cemeteries, Moskvin's morbid fascination began after a traumatic event in 1979, when he was forced to kiss the corpse of a girl. Over the years, he visited hundreds of cemeteries, but his interest soon crossed into desecration. In 2011, police discovered 29 mummified bodies of girls in his apartment, each dressed as dolls with music boxes placed inside them. Despite confessing to the grave desecrations, Moskvin claimed he was rescuing the girls and gave them a home. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, he was committed to a psychiatric institution, though his potential release still haunts the victims' families. On July 2, 1951, in St. Petersburg, Florida, the body of Mary Reeser was found reduced to ashes, with only her chair, part of her spine, a foot in a slipper, and a shrunken skull remaining. The rest of the apartment was largely untouched. The FBI suggested the wick effect, where body fat fuels a slow burn after an initial ignition, possibly from a cigarette. However, experts like Dr. Wilton Krogman were puzzled, particularly by the intact skull. In 1961, Michael Rockefeller, son of Governor Nelson Rockefeller, disappeared while collecting artifacts from the Asmat tribe in Dutch New Guinea. Though declared dead from drowning, journalist Carl Hoffman later suggested he was killed and consumed by the tribe in a ritualistic act of revenge for past colonial violence. On October 13, 1972, Uruguay Air Force Flight 571 crashed in the Andes, leaving 33 survivors stranded in freezing conditions. With no immediate rescue, they faced starvation and were forced to consume the bodies of their deceased companions to survive. Over the following weeks, an avalanche killed more survivors, leaving the group with no choice but to continue eating the deceased. Two survivors, Roberto Canessa and Nando Parado, embarked on a perilous journey and eventually found help. On December 22nd, after 70 days, 16 survivors were rescued. Their story sparked mixed reactions, but over time, they were forgiven after explaining their actions as a desperate survival choice. In February 1970, 14-year-old Keith Sapsford, a restless teenager from Sydney, Australia, tragically stowed away in the wheel well of a plane at Sydney Airport, seeking adventure. He was unaware that the wheel well would open after takeoff, and even if he had remained inside, he would have faced hypothermia and oxygen deprivation. His attempt ended fatally when he fell to his death as the plane ascended. Photographer John Gilpin unknowingly captured this tragic moment on film, making it one of the most haunting images of a young life lost in a reckless pursuit of adventure. Tina Thomas, a 26-year-old bride, married Gabe Watson in 2003 and went on a honeymoon to the Great Barrier Reef. Despite her discomfort with diving, Gabe pressured her to learn. During a dive on October 21, 2003, Tina panicked and sank while Gabe struggled with his equipment. He surfaced slowly and signaled for help, but seemed unconcerned. Tina's body was later recovered, and while she drowned, bruises on her neck and unusual behavior from Gabe raised suspicions. An autopsy revealed no definitive cause of death. Gabe's actions before and after her death, including requesting a refund for the dive and removing flowers from her grave, led to suspicions of foul play. In 2009, Gabe pled guilty to manslaughter due to criminal negligence and served 18 months in prison. Further charges in the U.S. were dismissed for lack of evidence. A 19-year-old from Belen, New Mexico, vanished on September 20, 1988, during her routine bike ride. Despite a search, no trace of her was found. Months later, a Polaroid photo surfaced in Florida, showing a bound woman and a boy, sparking suspicions that it was Tara. Although experts couldn't confirm her identity, the photo fueled hopes of a breakthrough. In 2008, a sheriff suggested two teens might have accidentally hit Tara and disposed of her body, but there was no evidence. Despite several leads and ongoing efforts, Tara's fate remains a mystery. On January 1, 2011, Filipino photographer Reynaldo Dagsa captured a photo of his assassin, Arnel Buenaflor, just before being shot. The image helped identify and capture Buenaflor. Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon on December 8, 1980, after asking for his autograph. Obsessed with The Catcher in the Rye, Chapman shot Lennon out of resentment. He was sentenced to 20 years to life and has been repeatedly denied parole. Pete Spence, a notorious Wild West outlaw, is best known for his connection to the 1882 murder of Morgan Earp, brother of lawman Wyatt Earp. The only witness against him was his wife, but her testimony was dismissed due to spousal privilege. Despite her claims, Spence was later arrested for another murder, but served only 18 months of a 5-year sentence after receiving a pardon from the governor. This mugshot is Pete's only known photo. Joachim Kroll, the Ruhr cannibal, was a German serial killer responsible for at least 14 murders, though some suspect he killed more. Kroll's gruesome spree included cannibalism, which he claimed was a way to save money on meat. His capture came after he clogged a shared toilet with human remains. Born in 1933, Kroll's troubled childhood and violent tendencies led him to murder women and men. He often avoided detection due to his careful planning, but his cannibalism and the discovery of human organs in the toilet finally led to his arrest in 1976. He confessed to 14 murders, but was convicted of 8 and sentenced to life in prison, where he died in 1991. Here he's reenacting his crimes. The photo shows a patient restrained in a French mental institution from 1900, offering a glimpse into early 20th century mental health care. At the time, institutions housed people for a variety of reasons, including depression, war trauma, schizophrenia, and cognitive impairments. Due to the lack of understanding and the secrecy surrounding these facilities, the true extent of mistreatment and suffering faced by patients remains largely unknown. The Jonestown Massacre, November 18, 1978, remains one of the darkest events in American history, with 918 people perishing under the coercion of Jim Jones, leader of the People's Temple. Jones convinced his followers to move to a remote Guyanese settlement to live away from capitalist society. After his plans failed, he gave a cyanide-laced fruit punch drink to his followers, which all of them drank and died. The chilling photo of Jones and his followers, seemingly living peacefully days before the tragedy, contrasts starkly with the horrors that unfolded. In 1946, 17-year-old William Herons was convicted of 3 murders in Chicago, earning him the nickname the Lipstick Killer, after a chilling message was found written in lipstick at one of the crime scenes. Herons confessed to the crimes, but his confession was later contested, with claims of coerced statements under duress. Despite maintaining his innocence until his death in 2012, Herons remained incarcerated for over 65 years, becoming Illinois' longest-serving prisoner. This is a photo of what happened in November 1940. A Japanese personnel from Unit 731 conducted a bacteriological experiment on a live subject in Nangan County, Jilin Province, China. Unit 731, a covert branch of the Japanese military, was famous for engaging in horrific human rights abuses during World War II, including exposure to extreme cold, live dissections, and testing biological and chemical weapons on civilians. In 1892, a haunting photograph captured a towering pile of bison skulls outside Michigan Carbon Works in Rougeville, Michigan. Once numbering between 30 and 60 million, the bison population had plummeted to just 456 by this time due to relentless hunting and a calculated strategy to undermine Native American communities by destroying their primary food source. This image stands as a stark testament to the ecological and cultural devastation wrought by the expansionist policies of the era. In August 1966, the Apollo 1 crew, Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee, expressed their concerns about the spacecraft's safety by presenting a light-hearted photograph of themselves praying over a model of their command module to Joseph Shea, the Apollo Program Office manager. The photo was accompanied by a handwritten note reading, "It isn't that we don't trust you, Joe, but this time we've decided to go over your head." Tragically, on January 27th, during a pre-launch test, a cabin fire claimed the lives of all 3 astronauts, making this photograph a haunting reminder of their foresight and the subsequent tragedy. The Dyatlov Pass incident of 1959 involved 9 Soviet hikers who died under mysterious circumstances in the Ural Mountains. The hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, were found in a state of undress, having fled their tent in the middle of the night. Some of their bodies had severe internal injuries, while others were missing eyes and tongues. Though an avalanche was suggested as the cause, many theories, including military experiments and even paranormal explanations, persist due to the unexplained nature of the injuries and the lack of concrete evidence. On April 1, 1946, a massive tsunami struck Hilo, Hawaii, following a magnitude 8.6 earthquake near Unimak Island, Alaska. The waves reached up to 55 feet, devastating the town and claiming at least 96 lives. A haunting photograph captured the moment, showing residents fleeing as a towering wave approached. In 2002, the man in the foreground identified himself as George Wong, who was 17 at the time and later moved to the mainland. On May 10, 1996, Beck Weathers, a Texan pathologist, was left for dead on Mount Everest after a brutal blizzard trapped climbers in the death zone. Despite being presumed dead and abandoned twice, he miraculously regained consciousness and, suffering from severe frostbite and snow blindness, staggered back to camp. His extraordinary survival story was later chronicled in his memoir, Left for Dead: My Journey Home from Everest. In 2017, 18-year-old Andrei Emelyanikov, a troubled student in Moscow, fatally stabbed his teacher, Sergei Danilov, before taking his own life. He had previously hinted at his intentions through cryptic online messages and disturbing selfies, revealing a fascination with violence and death. This is his last photo with an electric saw. In July 2013, 20-year-old Russian parkour expert Pavel Kashin attempted a backflip on the edge of a 16-story building in St. Petersburg. A friend captured a photo mid-air, moments before Pavel lost his footing upon landing and tragically fell nearly 200 feet to his death. His parents later released the haunting image, hoping it would serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of extreme stunts. In June 2018, while vacationing in Turkey's Butterfly Valley, Hakan Aysal lured his 7 months pregnant wife, Semra, to a cliff's edge under the pretense of taking a selfie, then pushed her off, resulting in her death. He had taken out a life insurance policy on her shortly before the incident. Aysal was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 30 years before eligibility for parole. This is the last photo of Semra, a random person present that day, captured. This photo later played a role in this case. In September 1996, 21-year-old Ricardo Lopez, obsessed with singer Bjork, mailed her a letter bomb disguised as a book, rigged to spray sulfuric acid upon opening. After sending the package, he returned to his Florida apartment, shaved his head, painted his face, and filmed his suicide by gunshot. Authorities discovered his body and video diary 4 days later, leading to the interception of the bomb in London before it could harm anyone. On September 3, 2014, K-pop girl group Ladies Code was involved in a tragic car accident on the Yeongdong Expressway near Yongin, South Korea. The group's van, driven by their manager, Mr. Park, was traveling at 137 km per hour in a 100 km per hour zone when it hydroplaned on the wet road and crashed into a protective wall. Member Eunbi died at the scene, while Rice succumbed to her injuries 4 days later. The accident was attributed to speeding and adverse weather conditions. In March 2015, 18-year-old Brittany Gargle was found strangled near a landfill in Saskatoon, Canada. Her best friend, Cheyenne Rose Antoine, was later convicted of manslaughter after a Facebook selfie, taken just hours before the murder, showed her wearing the same belt found near Brittany's body. Despite initially denying involvement, Antoine eventually confessed and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. In September 2014, 3-year-old William Tyrrell vanished from his foster grandmother's yard in Kendal, New South Wales, while playing in a Spider-Man costume. Despite extensive searches and investigations, including a $1 million reward, no trace of him has been found. Initially considered an abduction, the case remains unsolved, with ongoing inquiries and inquests continuing to explore all possibilities. In May 1980, American volcanologist David A. Johnston was stationed 6 miles from Mount St. Helens to monitor volcanic activity. On May 18th, the volcano erupted catastrophically. Johnston's final transmission, Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it, preceded his death in the eruption's lateral blast. His body was never recovered, but his dedication to science and public safety is commemorated at the Johnston Ridge Observatory near the eruption site. In May 2021, 20-year-old Agnes Akam vanished after entering a shipping container in London owned by 64-year-old Nikolai Pazan. He brutally murdered her with a jigsaw power tool, then concealed her body in a wheelie bin and buried it in Nasden Recreation Ground. Pazan was convicted of her murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 22 years. This is her last photo, and this white coat she's wearing was later found with trash. On August 16, 1977, at 12:28 a.m., Elvis Presley was photographed returning to Graceland with his girlfriend, Ginger Alden, after a late-night dental visit. He smiled and waved at a 4-year-old girl as her grandfather captured what would become the last known photo of the king of rock and roll. Later that day, Elvis was found unresponsive in his bathroom and pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m. On July 25, 2000, Air France Flight 4590, a Concorde, suffered a catastrophic crash just after takeoff from Paris due to a tire blowout caused by debris left by another plane. The resulting fire from a punctured fuel tank led to the plane losing control and crashing into a hotel in Gonesse, France, killing all 109 people on board and 4 on the ground. This disaster, the only fatal incident in Concorde's history, ended the supersonic jet's era of luxury travel, leading to its retirement in 2003. On July 9, 2016, Spanish bullfighter Victor Barrio was fatally gored by a bull named Lorenzo during a televised bullfight in Teruel, Spain. The incident marked the first death of a professional matador in the ring in Spain since 1985. On November 17, 2013, American freediver Nicholas Mevoli tragically died during the vertical blue competition in the Bahamas. He had just completed a 72-meter dive without fins or weights and appeared conscious but anxious upon surfacing. Moments later, he lost consciousness and was unable to be revived, marking the first fatality in an international freediving competition. On August 14, 2011, 20-year-old Japanese exchange student Ayano Tokumasu visited Niagara Falls with a friend. In an attempt to capture a photo without other tourists in the background, she climbed over a safety railing. While trying to return to safety, she lost her balance and fell into the river, swept over the Horseshoe Falls. Her body was discovered 4 days later in the U.S. side of the river. On August 31, 2024, Fabio Chiarioni, a 51-year-old father from Paderno Dugnano, Italy, shared a joyful photo with his wife and 2 sons to celebrate his birthday. Tragically, just hours later, his 17-year-old son fatally stabbed Fabio, his wife Daniela, and his 12-year-old brother in their home. The teenager initially fabricated a story to authorities, but later confessed, stating he felt like a foreign body in his family and believed killing them would free him from his discomfort. In a poignant final snapshot taken just before takeoff on July 17, 2014, Dutch teenager Gary Slock and his mother, Petra Langeveld, are seen smiling together aboard Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. Tragically, hours later, the flight was shot down over eastern Ukraine by a surface-to-air missile, resulting in the deaths of all 298 people on board. On May 11, 2011, 6-year-old Timothy Pitson was picked up from school by his mother, Amy Fry Pitson, who claimed a family emergency. They embarked on a 3-day trip to various locations, including a zoo and water parks. On May 13th, Amy was found deceased in a hotel room from suicide, leaving a note stating Timothy was safe but would never be found. Despite extensive investigations, Timothy's whereabouts remain unknown, and his case is one of Illinois' most enduring mysteries. He was seen for the last time in this CCTV footage. On December 10, 2003, 23-year-old college student celebrated his supposed graduation with his family. Later that evening, he orchestrated a home invasion that resulted in the deaths of his mother, Tricia, and younger brother, Kevin. His father, Kent, survived the attack and later forgave his son, who was subsequently convicted and sentenced to death. In 2018, his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment without parole. Gail Matson, a 79-year-old woman from Minnesota, was tragically killed on March 30, 2024, during a safari in Zambia's Kafue National Park. While on a game drive with 5 other tourists, their vehicle was unexpectedly charged by a bull elephant. The elephant's forceful impact overturned the vehicle, resulting in Matson's death and injuring 5 others. The incident was captured on video and widely shared. In November 2017, 24-year-old Sydney Loof was murdered by Bailey Boswell and Aubrey Trail after a Tinder date in Nebraska. Her dismembered body was found weeks later. Boswell was sentenced to life in prison without parole, while Trail received the death penalty. This is Sydney's last selfie. Molly LaRue and Jeff Hood, a young couple filled with adventure and optimism, set out to hike the Appalachian Trail in 1990. Their journey ended tragically when, on September 13th, they were attacked while sleeping at a shelter in Pennsylvania. Jeff was fatally shot, and Molly was brutally assaulted and murdered. The killer, Paul David Cruz, an ex-Marine with a violent past, was caught after being spotted wearing Jeff's belongings. Cruz was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The final photograph of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, taken just before their assassination on June 28, 1914, captures a serene moment before their deaths ignited World War I. The assassination, carried out by Bosnian Serb revolutionaries, triggered Austria-Hungary's declaration of war on Serbia, escalating into a global conflict that reshaped borders, caused millions of casualties, and set the stage for World War II and the Cold War. This photograph symbolizes the calm before a storm that altered history forever. Gary Box, a Brooklyn firefighter, died in the September 11, 2001 attacks, and for years his family was left without closure, as his body was never found. In 2009, Gary's sister discovered a photo of a firefighter running through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, which was later confirmed to be Gary, heading toward the burning towers. This photo, captured by Danish businessman Erik Troelsen, provided Gary's family with a bittersweet glimpse of his final heroic moments, offering them the closure they had long sought. In a tragic incident at the New Delhi Zoo, a 20-year-old man breached multiple barriers to get a closer look at the tiger exhibit, falling 18 feet into the moat. The tiger, curious about the disturbance, approached the man, and the situation quickly escalated, leading to his death. Zookeepers struggled for hours to safely return the tiger to its enclosure. Emma Brown, a 12-year-old from Poolville, Texas, shocked her small town when she shot her father, Daniel, before turning the gun on herself on September 20th, 2022. The incident was part of a premeditated plot Emma had formed with another 12-year-old girl, planning to kill their families and run away. While Emma's father survived the attack, Emma died 2 days later in the hospital. The tragic event raised more questions than answers, particularly about what drove Emma to commit such an act, especially considering her access to firearms through her father's FFL license. Rosario Charo Endrinal's life, once full of promise, tragically unraveled after she left her family and fell into a cycle of drug addiction. By 2015, Charo was homeless in Barcelona, often seeking shelter in an ATM vestibule where she became the target of abuse. On December 16, 2015, 3 teenagers brutally attacked her, eventually setting her on fire, leaving her with severe burns. Despite fighting for her life for 28 hours, Charo succumbed to her injuries. The attackers were arrested, but the tragic loss left her daughter Santal devastated, as she had hoped for her mother's recovery and a chance at reconciliation. On August 1, 1943, a crowd gathered at Lambert St. Louis Airport to witness the first public demonstration of the Waco CG-4 glider. However, disaster struck immediately after the tow cable was released, causing the glider's right wing to break off and sending it crashing from 1,000 feet. All 10 passengers, including Mayor William Becker, were killed instantly. Nirupama Prajapati tragically lost her life while on a picnic near the IB River in the Sundarar district. While attempting to capture a selfie near the rocky edge, a man climbing nearby lost his footing, accidentally knocking her into the river. Despite her efforts to hold on, the force of the rapids swept her away. Her body was found the next day, lodged in a stone crevice, after 22 hours of searching. Her death is a sobering reminder of the growing number of selfie-related fatalities, particularly in India, which has seen the highest number of such incidents worldwide. Ryan Dunn, known for his role on MTV's Jackass, posted a photo on Twitter on June 20, 2011, showing him and friends drinking at a bar. Just hours later, He and production assistant Zachary Hartwell were killed in a tragic car crash. Dunn, who was driving, lost control of his vehicle, which crashed into a tree and caught fire. It was later revealed that Dunn's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit. Gavin Zimmerman was vacationing with friends at Cape Solander when tragedy struck. Just before his fatal fall, he took a photo standing near the cliff, appearing happy and unaware of the danger. He sent the photo to his father, but never responded to his message. Investigators believe Gavin tried to take another selfie closer to the edge, lost his balance, and fell into the ocean. Despite efforts to revive him, he was found unconscious and later died, leaving his family devastated by the sudden loss. In February 2017, best friends Abby Williams and Libby German embarked on a hike near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana. Libby captured a photo of Abby walking on the bridge, which would become one of the last images of her alive. Unbeknownst to them, Richard Allen, a local pharmacy technician, was lurking nearby. Libby managed to record a video of Allen, known as the Bridge Guy, before they were tragically murdered. The case remained unsolved for over 5 years until Allen's arrest in 2022. In 2024, he was convicted and sentenced to 130 years in prison for the murders of Abby and Libby. In January 2007, Jennifer Strange, a 28-year-old mother of 3, participated in a radio contest called Hold Your Wee for a Wii, where contestants drank large amounts of water without urinating to win a Nintendo Wii. Despite warnings about the risks, she consumed excessive water and later died from water intoxication, a condition that disrupts the body's electrolyte balance and can lead to brain swelling and death. Her family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the radio station, resulting in a $16.5 million verdict in their favor. In April 2014, 32-year-old Courtney Ann Sanford from High Point, North Carolina, tragically lost her life in a car accident just moments after posting on Facebook about Pharrell Williams' song Happy. At 8:33 a.m., she shared a post stating, "The happy song makes me happy." And 1 minute later, police received a call about a head-on collision. Courtney's car had crossed the median and collided with a truck, causing her vehicle to catch fire. The driver of the truck was unharmed. Investigations revealed that Courtney had also been taking selfies while driving, highlighting the dangers of distracted driving. In July 2018, former Thai Navy SEAL Saman Kunan tragically lost his life during the rescue of 12 boys and their soccer coach trapped in Thailand's Tham Luang cave. While placing oxygen tanks along the cave's submerged passageways, he ran out of air and lost consciousness on his return trip. Despite attempts to revive him, he was pronounced dead early on July 6. His sacrifice was pivotal in the successful rescue of all 13 individuals, and he was posthumously honored by the Thai king and military. On May 18, 2023, 41-year-old Casey Rivara, a father of 2 from Rockland, California, tragically lost his life while assisting a mother duck and her ducklings across a busy intersection. After parking his car at the intersection of Park Drive and Stanford Ranch Boulevard, he helped the ducks cross safely. However, as he was returning to his vehicle, he was struck by a 17-year-old driver. The driver remained at the scene and is not expected to face charges. The investigation is ongoing. On April 10, 2023, 48-year-old Jose Valenzuela, a contractor from Holdenville, Oklahoma, tragically died after a trench collapsed while he was replacing a sewer line near the intersection of Voorhees and 3rd Streets. Despite extensive rescue efforts, he was trapped under 12 feet of dirt for over 7 hours before being recovered. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, initiated an investigation into the incident. On August 10, 2017, Swedish journalist Kim Wall boarded Danish inventor Peter Madsen's homemade submarine, UC-3 Nautilus, for an interview. Tragically, she was killed aboard the vessel. Madsen later confessed to dismembering her body and disposing of the parts in the sea. In 2018, Madsen was sentenced to life in prison for murder, sexual assault, and desecration of a corpse. This was the last photo taken of Kim. Teenagers, Essa Ricker, Kelsey Webster, and Kelsey's sister Savannah posed for a selfie on Utah's Spanish Fort Canyon train tracks. Unaware of an eastbound train approaching from behind, they were struck and killed. Savannah survived briefly but succumbed to her injuries 3 days later. Wallace Hartley, the Titanic's bandleader, played his violin as the ship sank. The instrument was recovered and sold at auction for $1.5 million, symbolizing the band's final act of courage. Jolie Callan's ex-boyfriend, Lauren Bunner, took photos of her during a hike in Alabama. He later shot her and pushed her off a cliff. The photos were used as evidence in his conviction. While vacationing in Florida, Joan Rogers and her daughters were lured by Oba Chandler under the guise of a boat tour. They were bound, thrown into Tampa Bay, and drowned. Chandler was executed in 2011 for the murders. Photographer Mark Halevi captured images of a woman swept into the sea at Plum Island, Massachusetts. He later expressed regret for not intervening sooner, as he had the photograph he needed.